Tens of thousands of Disney workers permanently let go company-wide. We've now learned how many jobs are being cut here in Central Florida. Plus, a chaotic first presidential debate is now in the books.
The party wants to go socialist medicine.
My party is
and
me.
Socialist
right
healthcare.
now, I am
and
the
they're going to dominate
Party.
you, Jim.
We'll recap some of the most memorable moments and show you why the candidates aren't wasting any time getting back on the campaign trail and where they're headed to. In reaction to racial unrest here at home, the step Orlando's mayor is taking with local police to address the problem. Hello, and thank you so much for joining us here on Spectrum News 13 this Wednesday afternoon. I am Jeff Allen in for Eric Levy, and we'll get to all those top stories. A very busy news day here in Central Florida. But we want to check in with meteorologist Chris Gilson because so many people stepping out today, enjoying, a reprieve from that heat and humidity we felt for so many months now, Chris.
Yeah, and rain free for a change here across Central Florida at the noon hour. We are going to stay quiet weather-wise, feeling these comfortable conditions as we head into the afternoon. A live look at our Cocoa Beach Bogan Munz weather camera at Shepherd Park, showing still some clouds here along the coast in Brevard County, but some breaks of sunshine from time to time. As we take a look at the 24-hour temperature change, this is the big weather headline. We are about 10 to 15 degrees cooler right now compared to yesterday at this time. Keep in mind, we've been waking up to temperatures right around these numbers. Low to mid 70s here at the noon hour. 73 in Orlando, 72 in Leesburg, 70 in Ocala and Palm Coast, and 74 in Daytona Beach and Melbourne. So those temperatures will be hovering in the upper 70s to around 80 today. Coming up in 10 minutes, the rain chances, of course, they'll return. I'll show you when they could impact those outdoor plans at 12:11. Jeff?
We continue to cover breaking news live at noon. We now know about 6,700 Orlando-based Disney workers are among the 28,000 the company is now laying off. Spectrum News 13's Justin Soto joins us now live just outside of Walt Disney World. And Justin, you actually spoke with one worker who is really worried right now.
Yeah, she is concerned, but appears to be safe for now. A notice filed with the state that we've now seen is giving us new insight into these layoffs here in Central Florida. We now know it's non-union employees. Now, that cast member I spoke to is with a union, others not so lucky.
I was very upset and very nervous, very scared because I just don't know what can happen.
That was Kaylee Thurwalker's initial reaction after reading this email sent out to employees announcing massive layoffs from Disney Parks chairman Josh D'Amaro. Thurwalker works in food and beverage full-time at Epcot and is in a union. She was furloughed in April and got back to work in July. We spoke to her as she was getting ready for her shift today.
Very sad. It could be possibly my friends and I don't even know it.
Disney says the layoffs could impact employees across the board. Of the 28,000 laid off, about 67% are part-time workers. D'Amaro says, as heartbreaking as it is to take this action, this is the only feasible option we have in light of the prolonged impact of COVID-19 on our business, including limited capacity due to physical distancing requirements.
Even on the weekends, there's moments where we get busy, but I don't feel like it's the worst it usually has been, where there's so many lines.
Thurwalker is now walking on eggshells, hoping she can keep her job at a place she says feels like a family environment.
Stay strong through this and basically hang in there because I know Disney's not going anywhere.
To give you some perspective, Disney employed 77,000 cast members here in Central Florida before the pandemic started. Now, the union that represents many of these employees tells me they're still negotiating with Disney on many critical topics, including health care. Now, as for those non-union layoffs that we're talking about, that statement says that they will start in December. Reporting live near Walt Disney World, I'm Justin Soto, Spectrum News 13.
Thank you so much, Justin, for that report. And we're also catching up with some other Disney workers throughout the day today that you'll hear from later today. Now, we know that 28,000 people being laid off is a lot, but we want to give you some additional perspective on what that number means. Exploria Stadium, where Orlando City Soccer plays, couldn't even fit all of the people being laid off by Disney across the county. Now, this stadium only holds about 2,500 people. Now, another comparison, the layoff is larger than many cities. This graphic shows the latest census population data for 5 Central Florida cities. Now, the layoff is roughly the same as the city of Castleberry and Rockledge, and larger than Leesburg, Haines City, and West Melbourne. Now, keep in mind, as we reported, 6,700 of the total layoffs are happening at Walt Disney World in Orlando.
Make sure you, in fact, let people know
He doesn't want
you're a
to answer the
senator.
question.
I'm not going to answer the question
Why
because
would you answer that
because
question?
the question
You want to put a lot
is
of
the
new
question
Supreme Court
is
justice,
the
radical
question-
left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on?
One of many wild and contentious moments there in last night's debate. President Donald Trump and Joe Biden sparring for the first time on the national stage. And as you heard, the Supreme Court was a big topic. Chris Wallace, the moderator, had a hard time reining in the candidates and keeping order in the room at times. The president says he's standing by his decision to go through with his Supreme Court nomination. He said Democrats would do the same.
We won the election, and therefore we have the right to choose her. And very few people knowingly would say otherwise. And by the way, the Democrats, they wouldn't even think about not doing it. If they had, the only difference is they try and do it faster.
The American people.
Joe
have a
Biden
right.
says the American people should have their say.
And that say occurs when they vote for United States senators and when they vote for the President of the United States.
Now, you may be one of many still trying to digest all of this from the first presidential debate. From constant interruptions to personal attacks, things got a little confusing at times. So we're going to fact check what was said at certain points. Now, the president claimed Joe Biden's plan to fight coronavirus would be to shut down the country.
He wants to shut down this country, and I want to keep it open.
Biden has talked about a full stop shutdown, but the president's statement needs some context. In an interview with CBS News, Joe Biden said in order to protect the economy and jobs, you've got to get the virus under control. He said in that interview he would listen to scientists and shut it down if needed. Now, meanwhile, Joe Biden has his own take on the president's response.
The president has no plan.
Now, the White House did release a plan on how the government will distribute free 2-dose vaccinations, for example, but PolitiFact reports that was not initially their plan. We will have much more, of course, an in-depth analysis of the debate in our next half hour. And there are still 3 more debates, 2 presidential and 1 vice presidential. The vice president debate is 1 week from today. Senator Kamala Harris and Vice President Mike Pence will be in Salt Lake City, Utah. The next presidential debate between Joe Biden and President Trump will be on October 15th in Miami. The final debate between the two is October 22nd in Nashville. Of course, Spectrum News 13 will carry all of them live with special post-show providing analysis and fact checks. With the first presidential debate over, Joe Biden is kicking off a train tour. He's holding 7 events today during a train ride through Ohio and Pennsylvania, 2 big battleground states. Among the stops, Alliance, Pittsburgh, and Johnstown. Dr. Jill Biden is joining her husband and will also deliver remarks. Meanwhile, President Trump is paying a visit to the battleground state of Minnesota today. He's holding a Make America Great Again event at Duluth International Airport. This will be the president's 3rd trip in Minnesota since March. Minnesota hasn't swung Republican since 1972 when Richard Nixon won the presidency, but Trump nearly won the state back in 2016. The president visits Sanford here in Central Florida on Friday. Now, when you cast your ballot this election, you'll have 6 state amendments to decide on here in Florida, the last of which focuses on the families of disabled veterans. Amendment 6 lays out a tax discount for spouses of veterans who had permanent combat-related disabilities. This means surviving spouses of disabled veterans who benefited from the homestead property tax discount would have that discount legally carried over to them until they remarry. Political science professor Aubrey Jewett says under current law, there are spouses that are already getting the discount.
But it's only in state law, so it could be changed by some future legislature, for instance, if they were hard up for money or something like that. So what Amendment 6 would do is enshrine this benefit in the Florida Constitution rather than just having it in state statute.
Now, if 60% of voters in Florida vote in favor of this amendment, it will be added to the state constitution. Expanded Decision 2020 coverage is on the Spectrum News app. There you'll read about what is most important to voters across Central Florida and why Seminole County is an especially big battleground area for the elections. You can find those stories by downloading the Spectrum News app right now for your Apple or Android device. The U.S. Senate is set to vote today on a stopgap spending measure. It's to prevent a government shutdown just hours before funding is set to expire. Now, the vote is expected to pass ahead of the midnight deadline. The continuing resolution would keep the government funded through December 11th. Now, the House of Representatives already approved the bill by a wide margin last week, so now it's up to the Senate to pass it. Getting answers to what happened during the 2016 presidential election as the 2020 election approaches, former FBI Director James Comey faced the Senate Judiciary Committee. Members grilled him about the 2016 Russia investigation. They want to know what sparked the investigation and how the FBI handled it.
I'm not here to argue that nobody should look. I'm not here to argue that it was somebody other than the Russians who hacked into the DNC. It was the Russians. What I'm here to say is there were ample evidence of the other side being involved with Russia to create a scandal around Trump.
President Trump fired Comey from the FBI in May 2017. Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer met with OPD Chief Orlando Rolone to discuss the next phase of action in regards to police reform. The meeting took place this morning at OPD headquarters. Now, community leaders say this is a step in the right direction.
I think at the end of the day, this effort is going to be designed to make sure that the community is engaged in the interviews, engaged in the outreach, that they're expressing what their wants and needs and desires are, and that we're able to articulate the community perspective in our recommendations, and then the OPD and the city embrace those recommendations.
Spectrum News 13 is focusing on the conversations of race following recent protests with our monthly program, Justice for All. We explore feeling invisible and microaggressions people face every day. This program airs this afternoon at 1:30. Now it is that time to get another check of your weather on the ones, and we want to bring in meteorologist Chris Gilson, closely watching the skies. And you know, we've gotten that reprieve from the heat and humidity, people enjoying a little cooler temperatures, but the big question is how long is that going to last? Because we know it's going to warm up again at some point.
Yeah, it's going to last a little bit longer than what we had last week. Of course, the rain will return, and I'll show you when that could impact those outdoor plans in just a second. Let's take you out to some of the clearing skies that we have here.